Welcome to Yoga for the Barn Aisle by Calvo Yoga. I'm your host, Makayla, the owner and founder of Calvo Yoga, and I'm so excited to talk to you and discuss the topic of winter arcs. If you are listening in real time, we're just getting into December, and if you're anything like me, the idea of a winter arc has been all over your social media feed. And I am all one for the winter arc and what you can do in the cool winter months when time seems to move a little slower. But I wanted to take today to discuss why and why not equestrians can utilize a winter arc and what that really means. Of course, I'm going to bring in some psychology and a little bit of yoga philosophy to this conversation, and hopefully this will be a great treat for you as we move through December and possibly approaching, if you're a competitive rider, the new show season. If not, you're just approaching greater weather, and that means more time outside with your horse without getting drenched, especially if you're here in the Pacific Northwest like me. So first, let's talk about what a winter arc is. It's this idea of taking the winter months, so December, January, and February, and really honing in on your goals. It actually kind of operates almost as a warm-up or pre-New Year's resolution sort of program, and it tends to be kind of set up like a boot camp or an overhaul of one's life. At least that's how I've seen it to be, although that's not how I've tried to implement it in my own personal life. Now that we have established what a winter arc is, let's discuss the pros and cons of a winter arc specifically for equestrians. So going on to the positive aspects. Obviously, you're working towards goals and you're hitting marks and you're making micro movements, maybe macro movements, and you're getting these big shifts, right? So we're pushing towards goals and we're making so much progress. That's great. And that's the best part of the winter arc, is in a small amount of time, you're making a big step forward. This is especially helpful for riders looking to go up in the next level, especially with like show rings, maybe not so much the next like mental level, although that's what this podcast taps into. But the physical level of maybe you're going from the 2-9 ring to the 3 foot to 3-6, whatever it may be. Now, while these can be great benefits, there's also a lot of cons for an equestrian to really approach a winter arc from this perspective of leveling up with your horse. So these cons include that it's spooky season, it's cold outside, it might be freezing depending on where you're at, and it just makes riding, I'm going to say, a little more difficult and also in a lot of ways a little more dangerous. If you're on a young one or something that's particularly spooky, it's spooky season. That means you might need to lunge more. Maybe you're even using some medication to help calm your horse just to make it safe for you and him to be out in an arena. I know not everyone uses these forms, but I do want to really approach the vast options that equestrians have depending upon whatever situation they're in. So these cons mean that you're pressing against this natural winter to hunker down and kind of move slower, and instead you're going, we're going to push harder, we're going to ride harder, we're going to do all these things, we're going to get to the next thing. And sometimes that just isn't the right choice. And maybe it's your trainer coming in and saying, hey, you know what? This isn't what we need to work on. We're going to scale back and we're going to work on these things. Or maybe it's even you with your horse going, you know what? I was a little overzealous when I'm making these goals and it's just not feasible right now. My arena is only outdoor and it's currently flooded. I can't do the high level jumping I wanted to do or the really intense dressage work, but the trail system that's connected to my house has maintained pretty well and I could go for long walks with my horse. That's a way to make a con into a pro in terms of a winter arc, but you have to be willing to shift it. The other lens I want to view the winter arc through, and this stems a little bit more on the psychology side, is creating a winter arc with your equestrian self in mind, but without your horse. Now hang with me because I know that's a big deal. But what if you took the winter season when maybe you can't do as much with your horse and instead you spent more time in the gym, more time in a fitness class or the fitness world in general? Maybe you spent more time reading books or taking in resources just like this podcast, or you start to work with a body worker a little more closely so that you can help your horse more when their body is cooler and it's harder to get their body warm and safe for riding. So the idea is you're taking this time for the winter arc to level up yourself outside of the physical acts of riding or working with your horse in whatever way you do. This is when winter arcs can be really, really powerful for equestrians. An example for me is I have actually been really prioritizing the good days that I have, and that's when I'll go for the longer walks with Bo, my horse. But on those rainier days, I might take my journal out to the barn and instead sit there and either write out what's been going on just personally. Maybe I'll even write a little bit about like the energy I'm feeling from him and what the recent realizations or epiphanies I've had. And I'm using that time to focus on my mindset as an equestrian. One of my favorite things to do is actually to meditate with Bo or around him. Maybe I'll sit on my tack trunk or right inside his stall, and I just focus on breathing and getting quiet. And this helps me to connect with him, and it helps me to connect with myself as an equestrian. And I've realized some things that I didn't think I would. So really being aware of how much my energy affects Bo. That's been a big thing for me this year, to the point where I've come to the barn and I can feel I'm a little hot-headed, I'm a little high-strung, very much like the green one that's, jogging down the walkway when you really just need to be walking slowly. And I went out to say hi to Bo, and I was like, you know what? This isn't a day for me to pull you out and try to do groundwork with you, because I'm not in the mindset to do this in a safe capacity. Not that I was going to hurt him in any means, but I knew I was going to be quick to react, and he didn't deserve that. So instead, I actually sat and I did some audible breathing exercises or pranayama practices, and Bo was out in his field, way far out, and he actually came over and just sat with me. And that was more powerful than anything I could have done in terms of a walk, groundwork, whatever it may be. And that was all I did for that day. And it was 10 minutes worth of a pranayama practice. The high-strung feeling didn't necessarily go away, but I was able to connect with Bo in a healthy way, one that felt good, that didn't lead to any maybe issues with our connection or me doing something that I would regret later and then go back and apologize, so to speak, to Bo. Using the idea of a winter arc as an equestrian makes me think of two pieces of yoga philosophy stemming from the 8-limb path. And we'll get into the 8-limb path in a future episode, I'm sure of it. But today I want to talk about ahimsa, which is non-harming, an example I actually just gave you of not choosing not to do something with Bo because I wasn't fully there to have a constructive day with him. So ahimsa means non-harming or non-violence. And really this is so literally taken to mean aggressiveness or not wanting to physically hurt someone or yourself. But the key for equestrians is not hurting the relationship between you and your horse. So when you're thinking about your winter arc and what you want to do, also think about ahimsa. Ahimsa, the idea of, are these goals going to be safe and helpful for my connection with my horse? Or are these goals and the steps I need to take to achieve these goals going to be harmful to my horse, myself, or our connection? This is where ahimsa can play a huge role in maybe making you take a step back, going, you know what? This is more of a spring goal, when the weather's better, when I'm feeling better, all of the things that could possibly be better, right? Especially coming out of a very cold winter. The other thing I want to talk about is sauca, or cleanliness. It's also part of the 8-limb path. But this idea of cleanliness gets a little abstract, but hang with me. The idea that I want to bring to the table is when you're creating these goals and these routines and habits and rituals that you want as part of your winter arc, keep it nice, neat, and tidy. Don't get overzealous and have 10 million things on your list that you want to accomplish within 3 months. Really get clear and aligned with what you want to have happen. This means that you might need to let go of certain things that don't serve you right now and hold on to things that are going to be the biggest shifts and the biggest momentum pieces for your winter arc. This cleanliness is saying, I love that idea, but not now. Thank you, I'm grateful for the idea, but not now. And allowing you to distinguish between what really matters and what's really going to allow you to move forward and what isn't helpful, maybe even what might be harmful. The idea of connecting ahimsa to sauca can be really helpful here. The other piece of yoga philosophy that I want to bring in is actually one of the chakras. The chakras are energy centers in the body, and when we're thinking about a winter arc, I think it's really important to think about the root chakra. It's our center for security, balance, being grounded. It's bright red, and it's located essentially between our legs at the base of our pelvic bowl, and then it extends down our legs. So as riders, these are our key points of connecting with our horse, whether we're in a saddle or bareback, right? But the root chakra is really, really important. But what if we talked about the idea of feeling safe with your root chakra, bringing in those aspects of ahimsa and non-harming, while also thinking about our winter arc? So maybe your root chakra, you expand to security in your own body. Maybe you're someone who has arthritis or an old injury, and the cold weather might get it to act up a little bit. Well, the idea here is you might not feel as secure in your body and your root chakra, and maybe that means you need to shift and go about things in a different way. Maybe you do purchase a pair of winter riding pants to get your legs warmer before you go out to the barn. Maybe you do some stretching or yoga before you get to the barn or after to help your body manage the differences between being warm in your house and cold outside. So this is how the root chakra, a physical center in your body, can manifest within your winter arc. Before I leave you today, I want to offer you a few questions while establishing your winter arc for the 2025-2026 season. First, ask yourself, what would mean the most to me to see a difference in between now and entering spring? Then ask yourself, what are the steps? Get as specific as you possibly can, but what are the steps that you need to take to get from where you are now, point A, to where you want to be, point B? And finally, ask yourself, what type of equestrian do I want to be? Or who do I want to be as an equestrian when I'm reaching the spring season? These questions should help guide what you want out of your winter arc and the equestrian you want to grow and develop and become. That said, thank you so much for listening, and I would love to hear about your own winter arc journeys. So maybe you email me if you're comfortable with that, or if you want to post on social media, please tag me. I am at Calvo Yoga across all my social media platforms, and please know that I'm so proud of you in whatever work you decide to do this season. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Whatever medium you are on, whether that is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you can. I appreciate it as I'm trying to grow this podcast. And best of all, if you think this podcast would mean something to a friend, please send it their way. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.